investigation and the crash, I spoke to John Cox. He's the CEO of Safety Operating Systems about the type of crash training pilots receive.
Well, this is a situation that pilots train for frequently. During just about every simulator training session, you'll experience an engine failure right during takeoff. So I wouldn't say that it's a familiar environment, but it's certainly one that we train for. And in this case, with a reasonably heavily loaded ATR 72, the airplane is going to be somewhat limited on its climb capability once the engine fails. But there's some things that have to go right to minimize drag, and then there's some piloting skills that are required to keep the airplane tracking straight. Exactly what happened in this case and why they lost control of the airplane, the flight data recorder and cockpit voice recorder are going to be the keys to answering those questions.
Well, there was, we know that that the black box recording is there, and there were reports, Mayday reports, as you well know, about an engine flame out, and you can probably see that from the video, looking at it over and over again. What are some of the causes that could lead to that happening?
Well, one of the advantages of turbine engines, both jet engines and also turboprop engines, is they're relatively simple. And what I mean by that is, unlike your car that requires ignition systems and fuel and a carefully controlled airflow and things, turbine engines, they only require fuel because once they light that fuel in what's known as the burner can or burner section, that's self-sustaining, so it does not require an ignition system. Something interrupted the combustion in that engine. It's either airflow or it's fuel, but once it goes out, then it requires a starting process. In some engines it's automated, in some engines that's a manual process. But that's where the term flame out actually originated, it's the flame that's inside the combustion chamber is no longer there, and the flame is out, and as a result the engine's not producing any power.
Let's talk a little bit about TransAsia. It's had 2 crashes now in the past 7 months. I know that you've been involved in NTSB investigations in the past. Does that raise any red flags for someone like yourself who's very concerned about safety?
Well, I think first and foremost, the investigators will look at TransAsia and see if there are any commonalities between the 2 accidents. If there are, they're going to dig into that with great depth. If there's training issues that may arise or processes, procedures that were unique to TransAsia that is not widely utilized in the industry, anything that stood out or anything that commonly links these 2 tragedies together, the investigators are going to look at quite seriously. That's going to take some time. We should have answers for that in a period of weeks, but it'll well before the final report, which could be a year or so out.
John Cox providing some much needed context. Thanks so much for joining us from Tampa.